Yeah, back. Welcome back to the second part of this. The story of Colia Clark, heroine of the age. I would like to put on our friend who had a program that we were talking about some of her early life and so on. So welcome back, Colia, on the story of your life. We were talking about a whole lot of things about life in Mississippi and your early life and all that sort of thing. And it's incredible. It would make a hell of a movie, as I said. We'd have to story. No, for the youth, you'd have somebody else, some Judy Garland-like kind of representation of you as a youngster, you know. But anyway,
I like that.
And also, it's very interesting how that family setting was so encouraging, and so you came out to be so well suited to deal as you have so well with the world and the problems in it, and understand them and try to help alleviate the human condition, which you've dedicated your life
I recommend big families, folk. I didn't have one, but 10 at a time. I didn't marry, and of course I have 12 children as a result of the 3 marriages. But big families are a great place to be.
Do you really think so?
Oh,
yeah?
ain't no doubt about it. No question in my mind about it. You learn a lot about personalities. You learn a lot about issues. You learn to negotiate and bargain, and
I guess that's true.
It's a community.
Now, one of the problems with that is Malthus. You know, we got what 7 billion, we're heading for 9.
Oh
10.
yes.
The UN says it's going to zero out around 9 billion.
9 billion.
About
Yes.
2020 or so.
Mother Nature, if allowed to do her work.
You can't be having 13 families and everything like
we
that.
Can
or
have
you're
that.
Be
Problem
nothing
is
but,
that we leave
there'll be nothing but people.
Mother Nature needs to be left to do her job.
Yeah, right.
We have been interfering with Mother Nature.
How about if you have
the balancing that would naturally take place?
Do you think it's possible to have all the advantages of a family by having real honest to God associations with other members of the Homo sapiens species in a family-like kind of way?
Well, I mean, that is what
or that
is what the village. That's what the African village is. I mean, that was what the indigenous village is.
It takes a village, you know, that kind of thing. Or
what?
is that Hillary said one time it takes a village and all that?
Yeah, she was reporting repeating from Kwame Nkrumah's African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child.
Well,
but I expand that further.
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, that the whole being the sum of all of its parts.
Yeah. More than, synergies and behavior
That's
systems.
right. So we got to get to all of its parts now.
Yeah. No,
it takes a whole people, WHOLD people, to build a village. And we're not whole.
No, the whole of human society ought to be associated like a family, and that ought to be associated further within the whole ecological order, which ought to be included within the nature of the universe, because it's all one system.
But it's got to start at the bottom where you are. Start right where you are, building that concept of village, rebuilding it.
Yeah.
Because it was once upon a time.
Yeah.
We see it now. We see remnants of it when we get crises. If you get a storm come through, everybody kind of pitches in. I love Chicago in '66, huge snowstorm. Everybody pitched in. Everybody from every which way, trying to figure out. People would brought me some cookies from across the street. I bought some cookies, and I baked some bread. And somebody else, everybody was sharing.
But that's what you're talking about, the family.
Yeah,
when
that's
you brought
it
up a family, it really is goodwill.
I am. That is in African context.
Is that really? Yeah. Well,
what it means to be human.
To
be human, because you don't come into the world as an individual.
Yeah.
This individual stuff is Western. This is madness. It's because it's not even European.
You think it's Western?
It's modern Westernism. It's not European either.
Okay, talk.
Because when we began to talk about, if we look at traditional culture, even in Europe, we'll notice that people hang out in groups. Hang out in small communities together. Generally have a lord and a manor or something hanging around.
Well, they used to have,
They
still do,
But they remain community. And if you look at Africa, Asia, look all over the world, people have always had, because you have to need community to survive. You cannot survive alone.
That's right, and it's at all levels. And we spoke earlier in the earlier piece we did and everything about how important identity is. And how do people get a sense of identity? And can we have a sense of identity that is inclusive of others rather than one that excludes you from others? You get a sense of your own identity in relationship to another that you are better than. Or something.
Yeah, to the whole.
That's what's part of nationalism often, is our worst system is better than yours, so we'll come and conquer you. That's part of the human experience, I think, is to try. So what we need to have is a collective association of all people of goodwill.
Yeah, but it's got to start at the bottom first. You got to start where you are. We can't just reach out and say, the world is now going to become this collective thing.
Well, we might
Capitalism
be able to...
has broken us down to what? Individuals for the sake of work. So that we do job. For who? We do job for somebody. So we got this individualism. But if you notice, and Jim Bevel used to laugh about it.
Who?
He said, James Bevel.
Who's James Bevel?
He was a organizer for both SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, but he wound up with Dr. King.
Down south was that? Or?
All over the country.
All over the
country.
Where
he organized.
I didn't know.
Had a terrible ending. His wife, Diane Nash, is generally known as a mother of the sit-in movement, and she isn't, but she's known as that.
Yeah.
But one of the most powerful organizers there was organized.
Really? Yeah, you were in on that early,
sure.
Right from the beginning, and it was SNCC, was it, or you got involved?
I came in with Medgar Wiley Evers, who is the most wonderful organizer you'd ever want to meet.
What year would that have been?
I entered the movement in '59.
59. How old would you have been then?
19.
19. You were just coming in your prime, and everything.
Soon as I got to
a little
college,
education or something? Or?
We just gotten in college at Tougaloo College, and we founded the first NAACP college chapter, and I was a part of that founding hour.
Yeah.
But we were building.
And you hit the ground running, I think.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And so,
it was very soon after that, or right then, that you linked up with Stokely.
Yeah, Stokely, 61. The next 2 years, be 2 years later.
He was a piece of work.
I love my Stokely.
Yeah,
Don't you say
Stokely
was
wonderful. He was, and like I said to somebody, I'm not sure who it was, but I remember I've known a lot of people and everything. But the thing I remember more than anything else over the long haul, I'm getting older now and everything, I remember more than anything else, I remember Stokely. I loved him. We were in Libya a lot. And everything.
Yeah.
I remember him as being so funny.
Yeah, it was
so funny. I mean, that's what I remember about
you would have loved SNCC because SNCC had
we
everybody
used to just belly laughs.
Comedy, you can't build movements and the kind of work that we were doing, where you know that any second your life could end.
Yeah, well, I've never
without having that element of comedy. I mean,
I've never.
Humor is just a part of the experience. Some of the worst stuff you say, you got to be crazy. Sheriff beating on your tail.
Yeah.
And when it's over, you don't laugh during the moment. When it's over, the funny moment was Curtis Hayes at Macomb. People always talked about, the sheriff is bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And Curtis is praying, giving it, that prayer gets serious, man.
Yeah.
So you can't do that without having that element of humor.
I think humor.
Otherwise, you go crazy.
I think humor is really important.
Oh, it's healthy. You say it keeps you healthy.
Thank God for the comics.
It's the break.
And for the humor. And
I love Dick Gregory.
Dick Gregory, he's funny,
I love Red Fox,
and
too.
Stokely was funny.
Yes.
I mean, he was being funny, just being every day.
I mean,
it wasn't like you haven't got a standard joke
welcome
or
to
something.
the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, you're just there.
I tell people we were all crazy kids.
Yeah, right. And you're up against such absurdity. You just have to laugh at it.
I remember many a time. I remember in Jackson, there was this young white woman that worked with us.
Yeah.
And this black brother was dating her.
Yeah.
And we were the Freedom, not the Freedom House, but SNCC headquarters, which was the Jackson Nonviolent Movement's headquarters. SNCC used it along with CORE. Not supposed to be dating in the office, right? So they had a little.
Probably a lot of that sort of thing has gone on in some of those offices. I think being human
but I know
beings.
this went on.
I mean,
so anyway, we had it locked up front, right?
Yeah.
So this front room, nobody ever went into unless it was business when Bob Moses came to town.
Yeah.
So we
Bob
knew
Moses, yeah.
So we knew they'd gone.
You knew him then?
Bob was my first SNCC director.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, you were in some pretty.
When I left Medgar, I went to Bob.
Favored company, I'll say.
Oh, I love him to this day. He's a wonderful man. I saw him a couple of months ago.
Good for you.
But anyway, so they were locked in this front room.
Yeah.
And I know they're both gonna scream at me for telling the story. I'm not giving any names.
Tell.
So anyway,
no, but don't do anything.
So what we did was went out.
Just follow your own conscience.
We went out.
Follow your own conscience.
I ain't got no conscience. SNCC ain't never had no conscience. So
let your conscience be your guide.
So what happened is, we decided we'd play a joke.
We're going to play a joke.
Now this is an ugly joke.
An ugly joke.
So we go out and come back with the story. Say somebody just told us that they picked up such and such and such and such and down the street, some white men.
Yeah.
And now we get it all started. And we get out everybody was in the game because those people didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Because it was just the two of us was playing the game, right?
Yeah.
So they got to come out of that front room. And Everybody's eyes are like, what were you doing up there?
And then you get a big laugh, yeah.
Oh, man, we
God,
laughed
you
about it
couldn't
for
laugh,
weeks
yeah.
on end.
But
because the way
anyways-
they came out was like,
So you got yourself knee-deep into all that and everything. You've been doing it, and everybody will recognize you did run for the Senate in New York
U.S.
State.
Senate, I
that
ran
was
twice,
more recently. And you were a Green Party candidate on that and
Yes.
everything. You
Only
had
the
your hand
Greens,
in.
yes.
You knew Cynthia McKinney very well. You
Oh, they
associated
came to
with
New
her.
York,
I
but
hear
the second
tell
time across the
she's
Cynthia.
getting herself into a academic situation.
no, she's finished it. She's finished up
She
her
got her
PhD.
PhD or something.
She's
Good for
waiting
her.
on. I'm waiting on her to tell me if it's been finally approved. But she's been through the Auburn dissertation piece. She's been teaching in Asia at some university in Asia.
Good.
But she's kept a live wire between there and here.
Yeah.
She's alive at all times.
Yeah.
She sent me a recent note that the person who killed Malcolm, I'm going to call him Malcolm Jr., but he's really Malcolm III, I guess, down in Mexico.
Yeah.
One of those men has been prosecuted and found guilty.
Yeah. What was your association or thought about Malcolm?
I had a lot of great. I didn't know Malcolm at all, and I always have this great story.
He
Harold.
was just wonderful.
They were tricking me out of Selma. I was
prince.
6 months pregnant, really, 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
So they had to get me out of Selma in '65.
Uh-huh.
But it was on the Saturday morning that Malcolm was coming in. Andy Young told me he'd give me a flight check. Well, I didn't know that airlines gave flight checks, so I'm really fascinated by the whole concept of a flight check.
What year are we talking?
65. 65.
65,
Talking about March, February of 65. It's just before Malcolm's death.
Right.
So, but in the meanwhile, I want to meet this Malcolm X character that's coming. You know, he's
Yeah,
coming.
absolutely, yeah,
There's been all of this, back and forth between the Muslims and the civil rights movement.
He was a prince.
And then there was a story about him, and we were so proud of him and so excited he'd be on to Africa after coming back from his trip to Mecca.
He had
And
made the
visited
Hajj,
5 African nations.
Do you think he was a changed man then?
Algeria, I don't think it was a matter of change. I think Malcolm was Malcolm. I think that Malcolm, I don't think it was a matter of change. He was becoming his own man.
Yeah. Was he becoming more of, but with the change, was he becoming more of a threat than he might have been perceived by a lot of prejudicial white people before
Yes,
that?
because he was the great organizer.
He was becoming a threat at a systems
at another level,
At
because now at a system level, because he's pulling together.
Yeah.
He's talking about the organization of African American unity. All right, it's no longer the OAU, and so he's coming back here to build that.
Yeah.
And he's already got his structure in place, his apparatus.
Becoming more dangerous to the power
becoming
structure
totally
that you
dangerous
referred to in
because
the last program.
Because if he can pull together, he figured it out. If he could pull together with King, who was receiving pressure from the NAACP, not so much pressure from the Urban League, but the Urban League was there as part of the pressure. If you could pull together with the NAACP and Congress of Racial Equality, well, what a powerhouse it would have been. And he understood that. I mean, he understood that. And this was no disrespect to, I'm not going to get in that Mr. Muhammad again, because I like Mr. Muhammad. I really do.
You do?
Oh, yeah. I think he did a lot to, oh, man, this man was courageous. This man was, went to jail 5 years for refusing to enter World War II. So
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes, pacifist.
Really? Is that right? Yeah.
Sure.
Right,
not only that, this man built Malcolm X, and many like him. Took men off the street and women off the street, but nobody else worked with, out of the jails.
They got started, that got started in Detroit.
Yes, it
that
started
was coming
in Detroit,
out of Detroit. They were at a little storefront there in the early 30s.
Yeah, then
Detroit.
Then it moved on to Chicago and across the country.
Yeah, but it was in Detroit. And also, he was associated with Detroit.
Yeah.
Or Michigan. Yeah,
sure,
it was in Michigan.
Sure. He ran out of Georgia, fleeing northward.
Yeah.
And he winds up there.
He came up there, and then he came, right.
But what I'm saying is this is a man that also built international relations. They're getting their fish from the Japanese. They're setting up businesses all over the place. They got some of the best schools that we had in the black community.
Now, who are you talking about? The
You're
nation?
talking about Elijah Muhammad?
Yeah, Elijah Muhammad and the nation. Huh?
Yes, the nation.
And Akbar
the
Muhammad.
Nation of Islam.
And Akbar.
And Akbar, Farrakhan,
Yeah,
we have to give respect to people rather than what happened in the white corporate press.
Yeah.
played off of any little negative.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So Malcolm would say, you know, we ain't got Dr. King ain't got nothing, people getting beat up, da. Anybody knows that if you define violence, you can't talk about self-defense. If somebody, you can't get a job, you got kids being eaten up by rats, you're freezing to death, you burning up in a...
That's a hard struggle, that's hard.
Those are strikes. Those are violent
Yeah,
strikes.
absolutely.
You know, so somebody hitting you upside the head with a billy club as opposed to this, your whole life is caught up in this.
Right.
So to be able to really define what violence is and what, as opposed to nonviolence, which is not the opposite of violence, nonviolence is the opposite of evil.
Say it again.
Nonviolence is the opposite of evil.
Evil, okay.
No violence is the opposite of nonviolence. That is, you don't fight back, you just take.
Yeah.
As the people did in Charleston.
Yeah.
When you get somebody killed and because you're in that frozen moment,
You think people have been forced to that over the human experience?
You
because
do what you think
they
is
were
going to
essentially under the thumb of power.
Well, you please, master.
Yeah.
As we used to say down
and
the South.
And you had to do it to protect the kids, and you had to do it or else you were going to be...
The whole community is protected, as people see it.
Violence being delivered down upon people,
Yeah, sporadic violence, organized violence.
James Joyce, history is a nightmare, and one could add, of injustice for the vast majority, from which we're attempting to awaken.
Yeah, but I want to deal with these blacks and browns and reds and yellows right here in the United States.
Okay,
because
good.
You can see it clearly. I want to deal with Appalachia, where you can see it clearly. I want to deal with the poor whites that I grew up with, but mostly I want to deal with black folk.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because when we see the extent of the violence, the big group that's had the violence are the red people. Nobody talks about them anymore.
Oh my God!
They're damn near been wiped out.
Yeah.
Less than 4 million. And then the next group is blacks, on which there is this really onslaught of a major genocide. So we have to deal with that violence, and we go back to the Malcolm X's.
It's the history of the world, I think.
Yeah, Harold, that's very global for me. But right now I want to deal with where I stand. I agree with you. It is history of the world. But right now I'm standing in the United States, and I'm standing on shaky ground.
Yeah, right, you are. Okay,
all right?
Yeah.
That the violence is increasing. My sons and daughters are dying daily. Either the low birth weight babies, forced vaccines, where most of the victims are black boys.
What's the forced vaccine?
These forced vaccines that are giving kids autism and other issues. Kids are dying.
What do you mean,
vaccinations?
I
wonder, we need to get Sally vaccinations, as I call it, on, because there are people who deal with just as medical doctors and others who are dealing with the vaccines themselves. The vaccines are killing people.
And a vaccine, I mean,
they protect us from things. Some of them
everybody gets a shot against measles
but not everybody.
And they came up with polio. I mean,
not everybody has the same reactions.
I guess so. But
and the new vaccines, for some reason,
vaccines can protect you against disease.
They should.
Yeah.
But the new vaccines are also killing people in large numbers.
Is that
crippling people in major ways?
Really?
Autism is one of the biggest pieces of that. In fact, there's a big demonstration on the 6th of July at City Hall around these vaccinations.
Are there good vaccinations and bad vaccinations?
I don't think any vaccinations probably would be considered good vaccination.
Well, what about somebody like prevents polio?
But listen to what I'm saying.
That was a terrible disease.
How do we control not just polio? We have all kinds of diseases that are terrible diseases, and we've had them across human history.
Yeah.
We have people who are dying now who are medical doctors that deal in traditional medicine. We've had 3 in the United States this year.
What's traditional medicine?
Meaning the ancient medicine that people have been using all the time, herbs and roots and proper diet.
Well, okay.
All right?
Okay, I'm in territory I don't understand, but I sort of trust medicine.
But I would say bring in...
I think there's progress.
I don't want to go in this territory any further. Bring in Sally Vaccination and let her talk with you. She's a powerful woman, and that's her work. That's what she's
I'm
been
an
doing.
Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah. Bring her in.
I'm an Anglo-Saxon.
She's an Anglo-Saxon.
No, I'm an Anglo-Saxon.
Sally's an Anglo-Saxon.
Listen, my name is Harold.
Yes.
Harold was the king in 1066 that was defeated by William the Conqueror.
Oh, God.
Harold was the movie Robin Hood with Errol Flynn.
Oh, I like Robin Hood now.
I was the Errol Flynn.
All right.
Do you understand?
You were the Robin Hood.
Anglo-Saxon, and everything like that. And the Anglo-Saxons are known for 3 things. They have the most terrible cuisine in the world, Okay, they're known for having very bad teeth, and they also are very known for heart disease.
Wow.
My dad, I'm Harold II, and Harold was the king of the Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah, a lot of red meat.
And my daddy was a lawyer, and he died on his 48th birthday.
Oh, my.
And the 48 was the average age for a male born in the United States at the turn of the century, 48. Now, vaccines have helped to, and medicine have helped to extend the lifestyle,
healthier diets, because remember coming in,
that's true.
We got a lot of stuff we can talk about that helped extend the age. But also there were people living into, I had my ancestors who were well over 100 coming in, and they all went through slavery. They went through all of that intense violence and lived up until 1939, 1943, and beyond, some of them.
Imagine if they hadn't been slaves.
Amen.
300 years.
Oh, Methuselah's back.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
But I want to get back, because what we have
let's get off that
because it's a very important piece to talk about.
Yeah.
This rift. And I'm going out, and so they're fooling me out of Selma, and they didn't give me a flight check back.
Yeah.
Right. And
you're right. I'm sorry. I
didn't get back.
Go ahead.
But Malcolm got killed. My mother gets me out of bed. Malcolm X is dead, and she loved Malcolm X. She didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
All she knew is
he was
a man who stood for self-defense.
Yeah. Right. And he was smart, really
brilliant.
smart, politically and otherwise, intellectually,
brilliant. But self-defense was in ACP. Self-defense was Urban League. Self-defense was everything but the new organization. Congress of Racial Equality, SCLC, and SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, were the nonviolent organizations, or the civil disobedience organizations. So, a good, strong self-defense black folk always believed in. That's why we glorified Go Down Moses, and we glorified Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho, and Before I'll Be a Slave, and tons of other songs, because we believe that you would have to physically fight.
That's okay,
to remove this enemy. We couldn't see many people as the Northerners who pretended that they were doing something. They weren't doing nothing up here. That's why I got up here was as racist as down south. Because they weren't doing the work. They ran their mouths. But those people were against nonviolence because they saw nonviolence as being weak, as a kind of a turn the other cheek, which nonviolence is not. Nonviolence is not that at all.
Violence can be the toughest thing of all.
Yeah, I think it is the toughest thing of all.
And ultimately effective.
But I'm not opposed to self-defense.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think we have to look at that. I am opposed to people shooting each other. But I want to just go back here, and we were just picking up Medgar Evers, and then coming into the 60s, and the freedom rides, and this whole string of movements, like incidents. Tougaloo has its first sit-in, and when we have our first sit-in, everything lands. We get the freedom rides coming in the door. Bob Moses is arriving to set up the project
freedom riders coming down from the north?
From all over the country.
All over the country.
But this time they're coming
62 or so, 63.
This is 61.
61,
D.C., from Washington, D.C.
Right,
is where they start, and they come across. So it's the South.
That was risky. They were.
Not just risky. That was many a person got injured, and was what kind of bombings and
Emmett Till
and madness. Emmett Till was much earlier. So, but what you have the 60 piece is youth get started. When youth gets started, everything gets to move.
And there was something blowing in the wind. Bobby Dylan was singing the song behind it all. There was something going on in the zeitgeist that was really saying.
Because all over the country, because you got a Korean movement going on, you got a movement going on in Germany.
You had a beloved thing like Ramsey Clark, who came. He was Attorney General in the administration. They passed Voting Rights Acts. They passed.
He hadn't gotten there yet. The Attorney General at this time is Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, well, that's 65, 66 or something. But at that time, that period was a time of a major stirring that ought to be
there's no question
understood
about it. So
understood in historical terms.
Yeah, you got Robert Kennedy, followed by a very wonderful man named John Doe, who was not the Attorney General, but the strongest of the Deputy Attorney Generals.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Especially in the South. He would join with us with everything. You'll see him when Medgar's killed. He's standing there between the whites and the blacks, and then the blacks and the police, as we see now at Ferguson. Blacks in Jackson were willing to take the police on. They said, okay, we'll take you on. You killed our man. We ain't going for this.
And let's get to the thing with the stars and bars being brought down all over the South now and that kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'm jumping
what a
ahead.
waste. As far as I'm concerned, the Confederate flag is not an issue. It's an embarrassment that the President of the United States stood in a church house and gave us a powerful speech probably I think the best speech of his career and the most integrated.
Which one? Which one?
The one at Charleston, the funeral speech.
Was that the one where he sang?
Yes. That's the same one where he sang.
I think you were taking exception to singing that song
because
of the guy who wrote it.
The song is an insult, but the speech is absolutely probably the best speech he's done.
Yeah.
But outside flying over his head was a Confederate flag.
I'm hip, and he also, do you notice he said also, I think he's a class act. I really do. I think he's a class act. And he's got a larger responsibility than a special interest thing. And he said, they passed, and the Supreme Court came out with these decisions, right? The Supreme Court, it was just a tremendous week, and he said that this thing about the South and that, and he said there are people who are going to be we have to be pay attention to the fact that there are people who this is really roiling tremendously, and we ought to take that into account. That's the act of a real person who's got some feeling about people's identity that ought to be understood, even when it's thine enemy.
Yes.
You know, that's a hard thing to do.
He took a note from Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Yeah, well, okay.
Lyndon Baines Johnson, remember the riot out west? I can't remember, it was Nevada or Oregon.
Which of the riots was it?
Out west, we were doing the 60s.
You were probably there.
Summers of these, no, I wasn't. I was definitely in Chicago. But anyway, the press asked him about this, whether it was Nevada or Oregon, somewhere in there. And he said, well, if I was a Negro, I'd ride.
Yeah, right.
And then he proceeded to say, and the chicken are coming home to roost, and we shall overcome.
Well,
Obama pulls it.
I'm still of the opinion that there was something really powerful going on on this planet long about 1970, in that period, that 60.
From 60 to 70,
there was something really shaking the world.
I know, right? It was called young people.
Yeah, well, it was
young people around the world had seized the agenda.
Right.
As they did, and I'm trying now to don't let Charleston or anything else destroy Black Lives Matter. Because these are the young people who, after 50 years, got through beyond the COINTELPRO.
COINTELPRO was horrible.
Yeah, strike on the black community.
Absolutely.
All right, really horrible.
Yeah.
Start with the Moynihan report straight through COINTELPRO. This strike on the black community. To just destroy it, because it was the community that was active, up and alive.
Frank Church, too. He made that. He had that thing against COINTELPRO. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a major thing.
So when we look at the young people now wrestling with the question of how do we take America to another place?
Yeah. Well,
beyond the racism, beyond the madness, beyond the capitalism, because they also want to look at the
beyond capitalism, but encompassing capitalism rather than overturning it.
I don't know what they're going to turn.
That's what I think is required.
I'm going to leave it in their hands. I know they're eco-socialists. I know that they're looking clearly at going back to small farms, and they're building. They're holding convergences around this country. They're beautiful. I was at the one in Troy, and I went with them. I traveled 4 days up in Vermont, 4 or 5 days. This was the winter of last year.
Yeah, winter.
It was icy in Vermont.
Really? Yeah.
I am still shaking.
No, you're not supposed to say ice in Vermont with that look in your face.
Oh, my God, to say it because, man, the road.
Snowflakes in Vermont.
No, the snowflakes, hell. This was ice road folk, and we had a little bus thing, a little bitty bus piece, like a truck. Holding about 18 of us. And you're going up these icy slopes. Oh, man, my eyes. Oh, there was snow, too. My eyes were popped. You better believe it.
But I want to make a point. It's not just the United States of America. It's the world that's coming into a time of qualitative transformation.
What I want to say is, but it's young people around the world.
Yeah, but they haven't got a hold of
this new technology has hooked them up.
Right.
This new technology means that they are sharing these experiences.
Yeah.
I can go online right now and I can tell you there's a Fathers Liberation Army in the U.S. and one in England.
Yeah.
There's a young Fathers Liberation. Fathers are saying they want to share their children. Because they're going to the court system and they're not allowed access to the children.
They're going to what?
The court system. Our court system before our judges, and the tendency is to give the children to the mother. So there's big struggles
yeah, well,
going on.
That's
so
a thing coming out of history.
That, but I can also tell you that there are youth movements that are all over. This is London. Then you look around the rest of Europe, you see the youth are on the rise. Youth on the rise in Brazil, Mexico, and they're coming together.
Yeah,
as
but they don't.
They're coming together as one.
But I'm trying to suggest something to you, Colia, that it's not a thing that's national, or we got a thing here national going, but it's a thing world, and it's a thing that's larger than we may be able to. We haven't got a focus to it yet. There's free-floating angst. There are things that aren't working and so forth, but they haven't. And I want to segue over a little bit on this program because we both had. We love Stokely.
I love him dearly.
And you know where I used to spend an awful
too.
lot of time with Stokely? He was living in Guinea by then and everything.
Right.
Was in the country of Libya.
Yes.
And I would like to not lose us track of the fact that Libya was an example that our government overthrew, but Libya had a state and a situation of organizing a society that was interesting in a way that could well have been a model for what the world needs, dealing with the thing that can do something other than saying, let's overturn the private sector, let's overthrow it, let's turn it over.
And the young people are doing that too, Harold. Young people hooking up with young people around this world.
No, but they don't have a thing. He was encompassing.
I wouldn't underestimate them because I told you I just left the U.S. Social Forum.
No, go on.
And I'm hearing numbers of elements coming, but they're headed in that direction.
But they're anti-capitalism. They're anti-private sector.
They're saying that capitalism has to be set aside.
Yeah, but no, wait a minute. The capitalism isn't going to be set aside, I don't think.
Well, young people are saying they want to set it aside.
No, but
they want to move beyond it
but that's
to
not
another place.
To socialism. And socialism is going to do away with the private sector. I think that is a fool's errand.
No, I don't think you understand that. I think you need to back up, Harold.
All right, but
these young people are building what? Small farms.
Well,
those are not socialist farms.
Well,
that young lady up at Troy, it's her and her husband were on the farm.
Yeah, but do you notice in Libya? Do you remember in Libya? Remember the thing that was unique about him? And remember how he used to say?
Yeah.
He used to say in Libya they didn't do away with the private sector like Soviet Union or China. They didn't do away with it and set it all up within the government or something like that. They kept a private sector. We've got a private sector. We've got corporations that have a capability of doing a great deal of good. You don't want to overthrow them. You want to transform them and to subsume that. And he had an
But
image.
I think young people are saying, Harold, let them make those decisions.
Well, I don't
and
think
I think I'm with Ella Baker that we're going to have to put the reins in the hands of the young folk.
Well, I'm not ready to do it until they get some vision that makes some sense in a comprehensive
but I think we need to see that vision. I don't want to pretend that I have their vision.
No, but I'm trying to suggest.
I'm saying that their vision is going to move beyond that which they know has been destroying them, and that has been capitalism.
Well, now that capitalism is going to be subsumed, not overthrown. It's going to be included. And Libya did that. Remember?
Well, no doubt about it.
They used to say, remember they said, they did, it's the labor theory of value that is informing the left from all the way through.
I'm not jumping that.
Yeah.
But when I look at Libya, I have to remember, that it was a little island.
Well, it was
sitting in a damn ocean of capitalism.
Well, capitalism is what's running the world.
That's right.
Yeah, and so
what's destroying the world too.
But you don't want to. But the thing is, the thing is that there's going to have to be some way to include those people that are in the capitalist realm or the institutions that are part of that, not overthrow them. There's got to be some way.
This big piece we call capital, I think, is going to close itself. As we look now at the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we're shifting what?
What do you think?
We're shifting capital away from the United States to Asia.
Those are parochially seen things. Why do you think the president's supporting it?
Because
President Obama. You think he's in the pocket of the rich guys who are oppressing us or something? That's what the left sees. They see that the whole thing is what they got to do is get a thing where those people are going to be able to participate in a way where the system is going to serve everybody rather than just a few.
Yeah, but when the system leaves in labor, there's no labor here, and I think I see from the
I think the labor is being undercut. Don't you think? Don't you think the labor input to production is being undercut by all the robotization?
It's been destroyed. Now we got only 7% private sector labor left. We have we'll have a little over. We're talking about the United States. Yeah. We have a little over. So I can understand U.S. workers saying, no, wait a minute now. Now you want to take another level away?
Well, what happened is the technology is taking over the productive process in terms of they're displacing people from the assembly line where they were needed. They're not needed to produce. And it's going into robotics, and it's going exponential. And it's private sector.
What does that mean for the people who have been displaced?
Well, Mr. Gaddafi did not do away with it. He said you could have in fact, remember, he said, you could have a private sector thing going, and the only thing you couldn't pay any wages. Remember?
Yes.
The people who make up the corporation had to have an ownership of the capital that's producing the wealth. They have to get a way of getting ownership or having the ownership brought to people in the private sector in a way that gives them an ownership stake, that gives them a way to distribute effective buying power to the masses of the people to do the good things that can be produced by a collector.
We're not going to argue because
and they don't have that.
And it worked in a small nation with 6 million people, and it was working well.
Well, that's maybe why they overthrew him, because he had a pattern like the United States had a pattern ahead of feudalism. And no doubt about it,
he's far ahead of his time.
And there's some people who may have seen that.
And Africa was moving in this direction and may still be moving in this direction. As we see, the new shifts in Africa with the invasion
I wouldn't want to put it in the hands of the youth now, or even the left now.
Oh, I love the youth.
No.
I think
I love them. I do indeed. But I think
young folk, they will come up with the new ideas.
Well, I wish they would start.
Reshape. They are starting.
Well, I don't see where they're doing it, except they're still inveigling against the private sector.
Now, right now, they're fighting against the machine.
Yeah.
They're right now saying that they want to dismantle the criminal justice system.
Well,
totally.
Okay, yeah,
right?
Yeah, right.
That's where they're fighting now.
Yeah, that's part of it, yeah.
Now, there was a crew that went after Wall Street.
Yeah.
But Wall Street is big business, then that's not small business. We got two sectors of business here. Wall Street may have small business there, but Wall Street is big business. That is too big to fail businesses. Where you got the rest of business. And I think that we need to separate those two business components from each other.
Well,
because I think you're talking about one section of business as opposed to the big banks and whatever.
I'm thinking they have to form capital in a way that brings ownership and lets ownership exist in the private sector to the masses of the people rather than to the few. And they're just like enabling the rich to get super rich by saying the only way to distribute buying power to people is through a job. Slavery, wage slavery, they're accepting
And the young people are saying, let the job go. Throw the job out.
No, what you got to do is, the one alternate way is you can build ownership in as a way of distributing effective demand. That's Thomas Piketty. That's what Thomas Piketty's saying now. You've got to build some way of getting effective buying power to people when their labor is not able to be, in any rational terms, able to give them enough to be able to become a citizen that has some economic security. They got to have a way that's going to incorporate it. And you'll have something where you can get everybody involved rather than having some enemy that you can attack.
Yeah,
out of a political context.
We're back to talking about
Libya.
Well, we're talking about Libya. We're talking about the model that has been destroyed. Now Libya is in the poverty zone, and all of its resources have been.
I know, it's a horror.
Sent out to other places in the world.
But what they had
mass lynchings, and I sent you some of that pictures. I sent you the pictures of some of the lynchings in Libya.
That ISIS thing is just horrible. ISIL is really horrible.
We can go back to Libya and the mass lynching of blacks right there in Libya during the crucifixion period from Muammar Gaddafi, led by Hillary Clinton, who is now running for president of the United States.
Yeah. What do you? Yeah.
She's zip. There's no discussion.
What do you think is going to happen politically in 2016? I mean, what's going to happen? Now, you got the Republicans.
If we have these young people continue to move forward with their movement, I think we're going to wake up the nation.
Well,
because the right wing has been making very serious errors.
You got Elizabeth Warren now, and you got Bernie up in Vermont doing it strong and really strong, and all of that. The Democrats are there, and she gave a hell of a talk at Roosevelt Island the other day, laying out her position. Yeah. And you're going to have the Republicans, Democrats again coming up in 2006.
And that's what we got to get.
We got to get somewhere to get that unite. We got to get something united, a larger context for seeing what's going on, because what's going on isn't just like a phase of history. It's something really monumental.
I agree. And
those technological things are going exponential, and they're not going to stop. It's just going to get more and more. And they got to get off the political context of finding the enemy. You got to get everybody into this game.
But moving business to Asia, where it's been moved anyway, and we know what the impact of that has been for this country.
Well, it's irrevocable. There's not going to be any way to stop that.
So if you're talking about providing people with a guaranteed income,
what you got to do is there's some can come through government programs. They should be encouraged. But then there's this also thing. There's a lot produced by the private sector. And the private sector, the forming of capital, getting investment that pays for itself.
But private sector now, it becomes machines, Harold.
Well, the machines.
Less than 7% of the labor force.
Yeah,
is now,
but they're going to have cars. They're going to drive themselves. They're going to have airplanes. They're going to fly themselves. They're going to have things that are going to make their own material goods, and they're going to fill out algorithmically forms where you don't need all kinds of people checking boxes in bureaucratic organizations.
And therefore, you don't need workers.
So you don't need the workers in order to have the labor theory of value to serve to
therefore,
distribute
what do you do with workers?
Then one of the things you can do is form capital in a way, ESOPs, or the things like Libya tried to do, ESOPs, employee stock. You keep the private sector, form capital in a way where ownership is distributed to everybody. Not just the few.
Now that's called socialism.
That's not called socialism. That's encompassing. That could be called That's something capitalists could go along with.
That's traditional African socialism, where the whole village owns everything. We're talking about going back there, whether we like it or not. We're going back down that path. Now, do we really want? Because right now my phone doesn't work. It calls up people for me. My telephone makes phone calls for me.
Yeah, but that's because you haven't gotten hip to how to make it work. You got to learn to groove in a super modern world.
No. Everybody's phones are making phone calls. Things are turning on that should be turned off. We got the Indian Point up here had a big incident recently when one of the units closed last year, and we had a big incident this year about 2 months ago. And all that oil spill went out into the Hudson. They focused on it for a couple of hours in a day and didn't tell us anything about it. So we got a lot of the stuff with the technology itself.
Yeah, there's a lot. But what we're doing is, I think what we need is intellectual leadership of what in the world is going on.
We need Harold University, but everybody's going to come.
There's no Howard University.
Harold University. Harold Chandler University.
Oh, no.
Where everybody's going to come, and we're going to sit and argue it out.
No.
I mean, that's the way people get from one thing to the other.
You got Fuller, you got some people who are looking at things in a systems way. They're isolating the intellectual community through a high specialization because the educational process has become a way of getting people to have a certificate where they can have a specialization that they can make money at. It's a way of distributing demand.
Yeah, and you come back to that's a good point, because what happens is education is isolated, so the community is not participating in that creation of a systems thinking. The community needs to be involved in the creation of the systems thinking.
We need something that can be understood by everybody.
That's correct.
And is it possible that we can get beyond the thing where the dialectic, where we got to find the bad guys? What does it mean? We may be.
Well, we have to worry about the bad guys. Now we see the bad guys. We have to look for them. We see them.
I think that the thing is, you got to just see it. It's like you got to get a thing where everybody wins. That there's something going on. Maybe we're transcending scarcity. It's all of human history has been a condition of scarcity. For one to win, somebody else had to lose. I'm going to hit you over the head and take over. All of that, realpolitik, all of that is there. Is scarce. We're now got a capability. We've got nanotechnology coming. We've got the capability of building an earth where everybody can have what they need in a material sense in order to have a condition of like haveness, in order how we define it. We got a capability. At the same time, we have a capability where we now finally, after all of our 2,000 years, we can destroy the whole species with our weapons.
That's right.
Which is the leading edge of that adversarial aspect.
But when we look at the scarcity, and we have to look at, we're talking about transcending it.
But we have
more poverty now than we've had probably in the history of the world.
We may have, no, we do, but that is, you're not talking about the reality. The reality is a reified thing.
I'm talking about what is, not what we're talking about building toward that. But it is right now the poverty.
Okay,
it is right now about 60,000 people on the streets of New York.
All right, well, I know. with all due respect, what you got is a lack of history. There's always, the historical patterns hold. The historical plays are in place. The architecture is in place. The thought patterns are in place. The means of identity are in place from history. We got 200,000 years of history that all these institutions are outdated in terms of the capability. The capability is different. In meteorology, the tornadoes, they have latent heat. There's a capability. It's not in the order of the things that we see every day, but there's a capability that we have the capability.
We're not going to argue about the capability.
Well, no.
The capability is there.
Well, if it is, it ought to be said.
The resources are there.
No, the resources, well done. And
the food is there. And some of it's not good food, but the food is there.
The capability for there to be enough for all, that we can say there is enough. We've never been able to say that except our generation, our period now. Isaac Asimov said that. This is the defining generations in evolutionary terms, not political terms. We're transcending scarcity. There's enough for all. Let's have a world where everybody can be in a condition, and so it's like an algorithm. You can't have anything and all the thing about the security state and everything. I'm
not disagreeing with you. I'm saying it is there.
The capability. Well, then it ought to be said once in a while.
But
we have transcended.
Listen, saying it is one thing. Doing it is entirely another, Harold.
No, measure it. Measure it. What does it mean to be a have? How do you measure it? How do you deal with it? And when you get there, if you get the thing, Word Game did that. Other people have done it. There, it essentially says we have transcended at the level of capability material scarcity. It throws out the window the premises by which all of these institutions we're fighting over have been. Put it up on the wall of the policymakers, of the people who are thinking, and then reify, and then build your institutions from there.
Have you seen any sign that the policymakers
Not at all.
That's what I'm saying.
That's one of the reasons.
So
it's just everybody's caught up in the past, including the political process itself. You've got to have something that can incorporate both.
So you're going to come with me and fight for a constitutional convention?
Well, I don't know about a constitution. I never thought of a constitution. I'm just saying that it's an amazing time.
I think that's the first step.
You do?
Yes, so all the players come to the table.
You want a new constitution?
This one doesn't function. It can't function for blacks.
You don't think it functions? It does.
It never functioned for blacks in our history in this country. That's why we're faced with what we're, because the darn thing is grounded in slavery.
Yeah.
And so Neiman, the constitutional lawyer, was very clear on the 200th year. And he wrote on that piece, The Constitution and Blacks.
Who's that?
Neiman, the constitutional lawyer.
Neiman, I don't know. Okay, go on.
I think it's Stephen Neiman.
Yeah.
And it can't serve us. It just cannot serve black people. It can't serve red people either.
It can't serve anybody other than the few.
That's why it was designed by the few for the few.
That's the history of the world.
I'm going to talk about the history of the U.S. Constitution, Harold. That is now. So come with me. Let us go and sort this thing directly. We've got to talk about, because the things that you talk about are possible if we had laws in place that were possible. If we could then begin to throw out some of these politicians that we've been dragging in, our so-called policymakers. So what I'm saying is we need
inform them and have them be informed and involved.
John Brown was trying to inform them. No, part of his problem at Harper's Ferry was informing.
Now, this generation, you're talking about the young, and what we're going through now, there is no precedent for that. There's no precedent. There was no way we could be doing that in the year 1900. We had to invent all kinds of things. We had to go through we had to have a Henry Ford line. We had to have production capability, growing all the time. Now it's growing exponential. And it's reached a point of qualitative transformation at the level of capability. We have a capability that our systems we've inherited will not allow us to do. We have a rendezvous with the new order of organizing human and society on a new pattern that is emerging and is the promise of the time in which we were born. Only our generation.
Look at the
It was never
Roosevelt.
possible in the
Roosevelt
past.
proposed an economic bill of rights in '44.
Well, he was able to build that toward that, which we've come to have.
And they destroyed
which
it
we've
immediately. So what I'm saying is, now we need a constitution in place, a system of laws that won't allow people to throw out great ideas from great men who could see what you saw. He saw that in '44.
Okay, yeah, but you know what we need now more than anything else? We don't need we need a world, and not a constitution for the United States or for China or the trade thing. That'll be a way toward it, TPP and all that kind of stuff. But we need to have what is called an operating manual for Spaceship Earth. This is one system, and we need it's like when you get a thing out of the box, it says these are the dimensions, these are what are there. And when they realize that there is that we're going through a thing where there is enough, or that you could have a subtitle on it, there is enough. There never has been. Everybody wins. And what you want to get to is a thing where everybody's involved, like a jam session.
But in the meanwhile, Harold, as you build toward that, we get pieces at a time. It is going to be impossible for us to talk about an operation system for Spaceship Earth.
You can talk about it.
I mean, people are can talk about it all you want.
Nobody talks about it.
But somebody's got to get out and got to go to building toward that.
Well, they are.
Because it's only when the kids are doing that. It's only when the kids are laying that basic foundation at the lower level. You got to start there and pull up. Because it's going to be their generation.
Well, maybe they'll start
We're talking about their lives, not ours. Because you and I, the journey. I got another 120 years, I think.
Okay, good. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go ranting on.
But in the meanwhile, Harold, we have got to build the thing. And you got to start somewhere. And around the world, we got pockets of people many of whom were where you are. Some not quite there yet. But they are beginning the building processes.
Well, I wish there was more recognition of that, rather than just going down the various lines that have been argued throughout all of history about good guys, bad guys, and dialectic and all that that's going on in the name of politics. And there ought to be something that can subsume all of that, and whether it's intellectual or whatever. But the youth might pick up on it. I don't know.
Well, no, the youth are moving forward. I have faith in these youth.
I don't have faith in them yet.
And I listen to them in their conferences. They got a lot of learning to do. Because they got basic education to do. That you, for example, have had an opportunity and you've taken the greatest advantage. You had a mind for it. But they got to get that basic stuff in their heads as they go forward.
I think they really are moving the same way everybody else.
No, they have not been caught up that way. This is another group of young people.
Well, okay, maybe, okay.
They really are. They really are looking at the whole human.
Okay, well, maybe so. Yeah, that might be
And in whole ways in which my generation and your generation did not look at it. They're looking at the whole human being.
Well, do you think we could get a world where everybody's educated so well that everybody's participating so much in a productive process that they're contributing so much that they can get effective buying power to be able to lead a life of haveness? Not even
so much buying power. I think we're going to have to back to that guaranteed annual income, because if less than a third of the world is going to be working in the traditional sense, as we see, that's dead. Yeah. Traditional work is dead, and we have to all say that's gone. We know now that we're not going to have labor as we know it. Industry is gone. Died in 1990, so we're not going to have industry as we used to know it.
Or have known it,
Yeah, and the part of why people are so caught up because they're trying to figure out where to go, because the government has not provided, and government and the university systems and no one else's work to provide them with a transition zone that says, you got this middle class falling down on the poor and becoming poor. Yeah. They're becoming poor. But there's no transition zone that explains why they're falling, one. So people see only what you call the enemy, the capitalists, and they are the enemy. But people, that's all we see. We don't see that they're held in place by everything around us, including
all
us.
of our institutions.
Including us.
Yeah. No, in our architecture, and our thought patterns, and our system of layout. Everything is done around that basic premise, and it's got 200,000 years of human organization behind it. And what you're talking about is something that is qualitatively different, that we're doomed, or the Asian statement is you're doomed or blessed to be born into a moment of qualitative transformation.
And I think we've had those moments before.
It's almost beginning to look like speciation, or we're coming into a new relationship in the universe evolutionarily, not just politically or historically.
I'm not going to argue with you about that. I think we've been here before, that other societies have tried it, and everybody around them comes in and consumes them.
Well, okay, maybe.
Asia, you're going to find communities. Indigenous population in the West. Africa, you're going to find communities. Europe, you're probably going to find communities.
I think
but everybody comes in and consumes. It's like the Northern Germans who had a philosophy, if I can believe Caesar, in his writings.
Oh, well,
it says, why work for that which you can take?
Yeah, right. Well, that's more or less the history of the world.
These folk, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So we see these folk just struggling and coming together as community, and they're building and and they've reached this point where everybody can share and care. And you got another group that says, I'll be there tomorrow morning, brothers and sisters, because I'm going to collect everything you got and part of you as well.
Well, that's the history of the world and everything like that. I don't know. I think we're down to a thing where this qualitative moment of transformation that we've been born into, and the youth are just being born into, is one that we can liberate the entire Homo sapiens species. We got the capability to do that now, which we've never had, or we can annihilate.
That's correct.
We're at that point of a transformation. I think it would be better for some serious consideration. How is it that we can set things up, an operating manual for this spaceship Earth that we're all part of, in a way where we do the former rather than the latter?
I think that is,
if we got an opportunity to get past the dialectic and do it.
Yeah, I think that's a dream of most people who have talked about revolutionary change in America. But
that was a dream of people in the future. But
Dr. King talks about, America move forward, go to the trash heap of history, along with everything else. And he's not the only one saying that.
And I think that's the mark of our time.
Well,
and it's a little hard to think after 10,000 generations. This is the time of qualitative liberation, jubilee time, or jump up time, whatever people have been dreaming about or spiritually projecting all this time is actually now at we're at the altar of that achievement of that, and it should start to be articulated by our political leadership.
As we see the possibilities for eliminating diseases and everything else.
Yes.
Yet at the same time, we see mass diseases springing up all over the place, and people with suspicions as to why. We see people out of Central and South America that have been obliterated by the Trans-Pacific Partnership model. Because you're back to NAFTA and CAFTA. So we see all these things at the same time too.
Yeah, I know.
Mass death and destruction.
We don't have it all now. We don't have it totally down yet. We're getting there, though, girl. And it was people like you.
I love you.
I love you, darling. I'm sorry. And one of the problems
we got to carry this on now. This conversation can't end here.
We've run straight and totally out of time on this particular program. Do you realize that? It's gone so fast. So good to talk to you, darling.
Always.
Yeah. So good. Colia Clark, queen of all things good in this universe, I'm ready to say. She's a doll who's been doing so much to help move the human condition forward. We got a number of friends like that. Out of the past, not the least of which was Kwame Ture. God bless him.
Kwame, God bless him.
And I would
always.
put a good word in for Mr. Muammar Gaddafi. I think he
always
ought to be
put in
in his thinking.
And now we're moving talking about a gold standard,
Well, also a thing.
Well, he was talking about years ago.
Mostly is he assumed the private sector capability to have that part of the process rather than underdo it in a way like ESOPs or Mr. Kelso.
Partners, not workers. Muammar Gaddafi. Partners, not workers.
Yeah, you could
the Green Book. You'll find the Green Book, people. We need to read it.
Yeah, it is. And he said you could start a business, but you couldn't pay anything. The people had to own the assets of the corporation. That would be the robots owned by the people as a way to distribute effective buying power. Listen to that, Mr. John Piketty, in your attempt to inform the responsible people for the operation of the planet. Thank you for viewing. We'll be coming back again, tomorrow. And so good again, honey.
Wonderful.
Colia Clark, folks, everybody.
I love Howard Chandler.
I love Colia Clark, the Mutual Admiration Society. Okay, thanks a lot. We're coming back again tomorrow. Thanks a lot. So long.